Well, hi. So recently, I say recently, in the last probably year or so, I've come through quite the journey of hormones, figuring out about hormones and figuring a lot of things out. And I know hormones are nothing new and women deal with it all the time. But I figured this is definitely going to be a series because this is I'm going to take you through my journey. And if any part of my journey resonates in any part of your life and you can find some answers that maybe you didn't even know you were looking for, because at the time I didn't either, then that's the whole point of this. So let's just say this is part number one. And let me tell you my story, or at least start my story. So I own a meal prep company. I'm going to preface a couple of this story with a couple of things just about me, and it'll all kind of come together as I tell the story. But I own a meal prep company. I have an incredibly supportive husband, and I will probably say that the biggest things that benefited me in finding answers was the fact that, one, I had a supportive husband, or have a supportive husband. I eat really well. I own a meal prep company. I exercise very regularly. I drink plenty of water. I've learned how to meditate when I get stressed out. I've learned how to ground myself. I read a lot of, not as many as I should, but motivational books, self-help things. I talk to people. So we'll start that off by saying, over the course of my journey so far, that has been probably the biggest tools that has helped me cope with everything. So back in 2020, probably around June, July, August, I had my IUD taken out and didn't mind my IUD, enjoyed not having a period. But I knew that I wanted it out. My husband got a vasectomy. We have 3 kids. We were done. I'm 43. Now I'm 43. So that was, when I was 41. So I was in my 40s. I wanted my IUD taken out. I had it taken out and everything was fantastic. My sex drive was through the roof. I was feeling myself. I had lost a lot of weight when I started my company, like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. It's been a minute. So I was really comfortable with my body. I became even more comfortable with my body. My husband and we had gone to therapy for the business, not because anything was wrong. So that's another thing. Therapy, if you're not going to therapy, you really should go to therapy, even if not regularly. So use that as a plug. And everything was going great. In fact, I actually started to, even though I didn't have time, I actually started to sell Pure Romance. And I still do sell Pure Romance, and not really to make any extra money, but really for the education, because I'm comfortable talking about, sex and my body and, all that. So, and I have a lot of friends and people that I was talking to that really weren't comfortable with it. So I was even selling Pure Romance. And things were great until they weren't. And then I kind of noticed, it's probably May of 2021, that I had slowly started to put on a little weight. And at that time, I had started to put on a little weight, and usually, if I kind of get off track on my meal plan, I clean up my meals, and, within, 4 or 5 days or a week or so, I started to feel a lot better, feel a lot less bloated, and then I'd get back on my meal plan and I would be great. I noticed that nothing that I did was, allowing me to lose weight. I started to really have feelings of what was I doing. I felt really lost. I'm a really positive person, and I really started kind of doubting myself. I couldn't lose the weight. Here I was owning a meal prep company, and I couldn't lose the weight. At the time, it was anywhere between 10 and 15 pounds, and still to right now, I'm still 10 or 15 pounds above where I want to be. We'll get to that. It'll all make sense. Well, maybe not in this video. And nothing I did. I tried everything, and I'm not a crash diet kind of person. And then on top of all of that, I was so tired. And I mean, so tired. And I tell people, I would actually like take a nap in the morning. I'd get home from the gym. I'd go to the gym at 5 a.m. and I would take a nap before I had to go to my store, like a 20-minute nap. And occasionally I would tell my team members at the store that I would run errands in the middle of the day, and I would actually come home and take another 20-minute nap. And sometimes, waiting for my kids' bedtime at 8 o'clock, I would come lay down in my bed because I was so tired. And sometimes I would fall asleep at 7 o'clock, 7:15, sometimes for the night. And that is very unlike me. I have lots of energy. I'm always going. And I've been tired. I've been pregnant. I've had babies. I've had no sleep. I've been tired. This was every day. I pretty much was telling myself, Ani, just put one foot in front of the other, and this day will end and you will get to lay down. I was past the point of exhaustion. I was utterly fatigued. And then on top of this weight gain that I couldn't get off, there was real feelings of self-doubt, and even the feeling of me being a fraud in my business, because here I was telling all these people how to eat and it wasn't working for me. So there was a lot of emotions. I wouldn't say that I was, you hear stories of people in premenopause or going through any kind of hormone changes, and you hear them say that they were, severely moody, and they would, scream for no reason, and they get mad for no reason, and they felt like they, just were so angry, or, their emotions were uncontrollable. Mine wasn't like that. I would say my only two things that concerned me, and even my husband, because listen, remember I said I have a supportive husband. We would talk all the time about the way I was feeling, and what was going on, and, how frustrated I was. So there were no, I wasn't biting his head off for no reason. It was the fatigue, and it was the inability to lose weight. And, I started to kind of delve into, okay, let's figure out what this issue is. I downloaded, a couple of, books, little motivational books. I thought maybe I just needed some motivation. The peak of where I felt like everything just kind of fell apart for me. I noticed some changes in my business, and there was a lot going on, and I felt that something needed to change. I just had this feeling that something needed to change. My business wasn't running like I wanted it to, and we were busy. I mean, post-COVID, in this whole pandemic, my meal prep company had stayed really busy, but now we're in probably the summer and heading into July of 2021, and I really just couldn't put my finger on it, but things weren't running right in my business. It just didn't feel, it felt so, it just wasn't running smoothly. And without going into details, I had probably like 4 or 5 employees leave at one time. And there was multitude of different reasons. Some left on their own, some I asked to leave, some was a mutual, but 4 or 5 people left. So now there's this feeling of what the heck is going on, and why can't I feel like I couldn't get a grasp on everything. It just felt like I was just being consumed and I couldn't get out of it. Remember, I'm super fatigued at this point, and I'm sure at some point I said I kind of feel like I'm just like going through the motions of life. And then on top of life in general, I had this business, and it was a lot. It was a lot. I was still like trying to cope with it, and at one point I think I went to my husband, and we had a long talk, and he asked me, he says, well, what do you think it is? And I said, well, I eat really well. I drink plenty of water. I exercise. I meditate. I ground myself when it gets to be too much. I'd really learned to be a better leader at the store, which is a hard thing. That's a whole nother series, I feel like. And at that point, I had started to read some books about hormones. And when I thought about it, I had gotten my IUD taken out. And before that, I started to think, and I went on birth control like probably my sophomore or junior year of high school, because I went on Accutane. And from my sophomore or junior year of high school, between birth control and being pregnant and breastfeeding and then going back on the IUD, and then I had my IUD taken out, that is a large chunk of time that for me, I felt like, gosh, I've been on some type of outside hormone for years. And so I told my husband, I said, it's got to be hormones. It's got to be hormone related, because I'm an incredibly healthy woman, and I am very in tune with my body. I know when I need more protein. I know when I need more carbs. I've just learned over the course of the last several years to really pay attention to my body and how I'm feeling. And I told him, I said, it's got to be hormones. I'm lucky, incredibly lucky, that with my business, I meet and know some very amazing people. And I had always known that there's a hormone specialist here in Augusta, Georgia, that I had seen her talk several years before. And, any professional that can throw out the words penis, clitoris, vagina, and orgasm like it's nothing, we need to be friends. But at the time, I didn't need her to be my friend. I called her up. Well, I made an appointment to go see her. Because at that point, what else could it be? I'm going to start with hormones. It made sense with my age and, from what I had been reading and, about food and hormones and what birth control does to your body. I needed some answers. And I was really afraid that I was going to go to her and I was going to have these labs drawn and she was going to say, gosh, your hormones are great. You're just crazy. And when I sat down with her, I did tell her, I said, I feel like my symptoms aren't as severe as what you hear other women that are going through. And I am relatively young when it comes to, menopause and all that kind of stuff, but it's not out of the question. And she was wonderful. We had labs drawn, and that was probably September of 21. And my labs actually came back as premenopause. My estrogen was in the toilet. My testosterone, by the time it was used up in my body, was pretty much non-existent. And my, I always forget the stress. Cortisol. My cortisol, which is affected by stress, was completely opposite of what it should be. It was low when it should be high and high when it should be low, which explained also my fatigue. And those lab results also explained my weight gain, of course, and my stomach and my hips, which of course is, classic hormone weight gain in women. And so of course, Samantha Tahino was who my specialist was. Of course, she had a plan. I am currently on an estrogen patch. I do progesterone days 14 through 28 days of my cycle. And I'm on a testosterone cream. And two things that she put me on that were almost a total game changer was rhodiola in the morning, which is and I'll get to these and I'll talk about these in a second, and ashwagandha, which I take at noon. And that was based on my levels and where I was, where my levels were throughout the day. Those two, the ashwagandha and the rhodiola, those are brain adaptogens, and they help with, and they're herbal supplements. So you can buy them over the counter. It's not a prescription. They are used for fatigue, anxiety, depression, kind of like mood stabilizers. And I will tell you that within a week of taking, I started everything at one time, but hormones take 3 to 6 months to really kind of start taking effects in your body. But within a week of taking the rhodiola and the ashwagandha, I felt a world of difference. And when I tell people that I came out of a fog, I truly came out of a fog. I immediately got energy back. I didn't feel fatigued anymore. I really didn't have mood swings or depression like that I couldn't handle, I guess. But remember, I told you that there were some things that I have going for me that I feel also made a huge difference. Is one, I'm in tune with my body. And the fact that I was already eating well and drinking water. And I had even, I won't say I stopped drinking alcohol, but I barely drink daily. Not that I drink daily, but I stopped drinking alcohol. I had even gotten to the point where I was seeing a trainer, because I got in a point in my business that I needed to take some stuff off my plate. And running a meal plan business and the things going on in my business, I didn't want to take on the responsibility of feeding myself and figuring out if I was eating the right amount. I'd also gotten to the point where I was under eating. I just got busy and I was too tired to eat. So I wasn't eating enough calories. I didn't know how to bring myself out of it. I didn't know if what I was doing was the right thing. I was really second guessing myself. So I was to the point where there were people that knew better than me and I needed them to help me. So that's another thing, is I asked for help and I wasn't shy about it. And I wasn't shy about talking about my hormone issues to people around me. So I went, and he is following my food, and I work out with him once a week. Just to kind of something different. I just needed something different. And maybe something that he could do differently. I was at my wit's end. That's kind of where I'm at. Anything that I could hand off to somebody to help me with, to help me feel better, I was all for it, because that's where I was. And so I started taking ashwagandha and rhodiola. And like I said, I felt a world of difference. And we're still going through it. Like I said, it takes 3 to 6 months for hormones to take effect. My 3-month checkup after starting hormones, my levels were coming up, still not optimal across the board. So she put me on, my testosterone was still pretty low. And so she put me on DHEA, which the best I can describe it is kind of like a testosterone booster. It kind of takes the testosterone and helps your body absorb it and use it. And I haven't gone back for that checkup. I go back soon though. So it hasn't been quite 6 months. Personally, I feel a million times better. And one of the things that prompted me to make this series and to be very vulnerable with it is that I was talking to my husband and I said, I'm in tune with my body and I'm healthy. I can't imagine. And you know, if you talk to some people, it's like, oh, well, you're in your 40s and you've had kids, so this is normal. And that's what I was told before I went to a hormone specialist is, well, you're in your 40s and you've had kids, so, you know, it's probably hormones, but this is normal. I did not like that answer. That is a horrible answer. You're telling me that women are told all over that this is normal and then we're supposed to say, okay, that's unacceptable. So here I am making this video, totally unscripted. As you can see, I'm kind of fumbling through it, but it's part of life. So I can't imagine the number of women walking around feeling some kind of way, and probably way worse symptoms than I am, and being told that it's normal because you're in your 40s and you should just accept it, because, and I'm not saying that if you're having, you know, if you have weight on that you can't get off, that it's 100% hormone related. There's a lot of things that go in with that. And I'm still 6 months later, I am the same exact weight that I was before I went to the hormone specialist, before I went to my nutritionist, before I went to my trainer, and I'm still the same weight. And that's a really, really tough thing to come to grips with. But that's why this is part of a series, because it's not like I went and I got this medication and everything is fine. In fact, I'm very much probably more of a holistic person, that I reach for more natural things before I'm going to reach for a prescription. But I'm all over some hormones because, you know, and that's your own prerogative. And I urge anyone to go to a hormone specialist. Now looking back on several points of my life, there was a point, in between the birth of my second and, it was probably about 6 or 7 months after the birth of my second child. My husband came to me and he said, I love you, but you're not the same person. And I wasn't. I was either really happy or really sad. There was a lot going on in our personal life. I didn't have a business at the time. And I remember going to my OBGYN and telling him, hey, listen, I've got something going on. Like, I know stress. I had a baby in nursing school. This is different. Like, I'm either crying. I have no libido whatsoever. Like, I could have cared less at that time that my husband touched me or not. And that was years ago. And I do think that was hormone related. Of course, I was put on, I believe, Wellbutrin and Trazodone, which didn't really, and of course he offered me Xanax and I didn't take it. And I don't really believe that the Wellbutrin or the Trazodone really helped a whole lot, I think, over the course of time. But I do think that it was hormone related. And now looking back, I wish I had gone to a specialist then, even though I was only 33, 34, somewhere around there. But I do believe that was hormone related too. So hence why I'm making this video, that if at any age, if anybody can resonate with my story, and I'm not done, but I'm trying to keep these videos actually under 30 minutes, even though that's a pretty long video, but vlogging my journey in hopes to, one, also normalize hormones. It is a natural part of life, but we should, I probably should write down where I read these, but I did read about hormones, and I read somewhere that we really should be in a state of grace, more in a state of grace. And we're not. Most women and men have hormone issues too. Listen, my husband is on his own journey and he needed some hormone replacements as well. But let's normalize this. Let's normalize hormones and what it does to your body and how to fix it. You know, my business stance is that we are an incredibly unhealthy society, and the things that we eat and our day-to-day lives and all the toxicities that we come across on a daily basis, it affects our bodies. And you know, trying to figure out and trying to be in a state of grace where we are a lot more at ease with what is going on with our body, and we work with our bodies, not against our bodies. And I know this makes me sound incredibly crunchy, but had I not been through it, I never would have become this in tune with how I feel, what I'm going through, how things affect me. And I'm really there. It's a process. My next part, I'll actually kind of tell you the struggles that I had picking myself up from this fog that I was in, probably a good 6 months of a fog where I theoretically speaking, I woke up out of this fog and I looked around and I said, oh my gosh, I've got a lot of pieces to pick up. So I'm going to end this video here. Hope that one, if you have if anything that I've said has resonated with, you know, feelings that you're having, in your life, in your body, you know, you can post your questions. I'd love to help you out. I am not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm truly just telling you my story. And I'm really looking forward to the other parts and seeing where this can go and who this can get to. Because it's a tough thing to get through if you don't have a support system and you're not already eating healthy. So thanks for listening. And I will see you on the next series. Bye.